Hello, my name is Adam Williamson, and I just wanted to give you some context for this speech before beginning. So, this speech was prepared for a mock conference that we did at university during the master's programme. And for this speech, I'm playing the part of a Scottish Government Cabinet Secretary or Scottish Government Minister, in this case for Culture, Tourism and External Affairs. And this speech is from a conference that's been designed to debate the refugee crisis that we have seen unfolding over recent years across the world. So I'm going to talk about the situation of Scotland and the UK, what's being done to assist in helping these refugees, and what more can be done in the future. So if you're ready, I'll begin. Madam Chair, dear delegates, it is a privilege to represent the Scottish Government here today and to welcome you all here to Edinburgh and to Scotland. I do apologise, as always, for the weather. It has been extremely valuable to listen to the perspectives of Ms. Papadopoulou and Ms. Serna, representing, as they do, two geographically very distant countries, but speaking of the common challenges we face in terms of crafting a response to the current humanitarian crisis in the Mediterranean and beyond. The issue that we are addressing here today is certainly not a new one. For as long as there has been conflict, natural disasters, and persecution in the world, people have been forced to flee and seek refuge elsewhere. Nevertheless, as has been acknowledged, we are living in times of deep crisis. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, there are 65.6 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. That is to say, 65.6 million people have had to flee their home countries. Only around 1/3 of these people are officially registered as refugees, and shockingly, less than 200,000 of them have been successfully resettled. Just 200,000. As well as grave situations in the Middle East and Africa, we are now witnessing yet another humanitarian disaster unfold before our eyes at a deeply concerning pace, as the Rohingya Muslims are driven out of the southeastern Asian nation of Myanmar for Bangladesh, in what the UN has called a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Friends, we have an undeniable common responsibility to address the global refugee crisis. I would like to present a brief assessment of the response of the United Kingdom authorities, both at UK and Scottish level. It is the Scottish Government's belief that far too little has been done and that ambitions must be set much higher. As a country that has had a key role in destabilising many of the regions from which refugees are fleeing through its foreign policy over the past decades, the United Kingdom bears a heavier responsibility than most. As of November 2017, a little over 8,000 Syrian refugees had been resettled in the UK. The British government has committed to settling 20,000 by the year 2020. This, at the outset, may seem like a reasonable number. But, friends, it is our conviction in Scotland that given the sheer scale of the crisis we face, this doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. In way of context, Germany took in around 300,000 Syrian refugees in 2016 alone, whilst even Canada took in 35,000 in 2016, which is striking considering the distance, the considerable extra distance between Syria and Canada than between Syria and Germany or the UK. The UK has also failed in its commitment to resettle 450 lone child refugees under the Dubs scheme. The Scottish Government agrees with the Assistant Commissioner for Refugees, Volker Turk, that a more reasonable target for a country of the UK's size and resources would be to resettle around 10,000 refugees per year between now and 2022, and indeed to look to extend such a programme if necessary. Of those Syrian refugees settled in the UK, around 1/4 of them have come to Scotland, distributed between 29 of our local authority areas. Scotland has taken far more than its fair share of refugees, and friends, I am here today to recognise that the reasons behind this are not entirely altruistic. Scotland has, for decades, faced a serious problem of depopulation and demographic ageing. In particular, many of our rural communities have suffered deeply as families who have been the backbone of local society for generations become more mobile, seeking out the multitude of exciting opportunities our modern globalised world offers them. To put it bluntly, dear delegates, Scotland needs an inflow of young, economically active people. Of course, the circumstances are tragic beyond our imagination, but refugees, far from being a burden, as many say, will actually bring demonstrable economic and social value to Scottish society. Not to mention the precious cultural contribution that they make to our communities, enriching our country in the same way as immigrants of all backgrounds have done for many years across the United Kingdom. Given the great interest we have in welcoming more refugees to Scotland, you will understand the Scottish Government's frustration that the power over this policy area lies firmly in the hands of the Westminster Government in London. Scotland's refugee and immigration policy is controlled at the moment by an utterly incompetent Tory administration rejected by the Scottish people, which is preoccupied, of course, at all times with the absurd political pantomime that is the United Kingdom's prolonged exit from the European Union. The Scottish Government has and will continue to petition for control over immigration policy to be devolved here to Edinburgh, so that we can finally have the sophisticated, differentiated approach that we need towards welcoming more refugees and asylum seekers here in this nation. Delegates, as I alluded to previously, the UK's role in the Middle East, along with the USA, has been at best highly controversial and at worst criminally destabilising. I am not standing here proportioning the entire blame for the tens of millions of displaced people to the UK, as we know the causes of such crises are complex and many. However, it is about time the UK took concerted action to alleviate suffering, some of which it has had a direct or indirect role in causing. None more so than in the selling of more than £1.1 billion worth of arms and military equipment to the Saudi Arabian regime in 2017. Here the UK is profiting directly from the Saudi government's bloody intervention in Yemen. Friends, this is totally unacceptable. The Scottish Government's message to the UK authorities and to our friends across the world is this: we must be and we want to be a part of the solution to this horrendous crisis. We must not walk by on the other side of the road and watch our fellow man perish and suffer. In our response to fleeing refugees, we must allow ourselves to be guided not by suspicion, resentment, and fear stirred up by the sensationalist gutter press, but by values of compassion, of empathy, and above all, of humanity. Thank you for your attention.